Hey everyone, so income taxes are an underhanded form of slavery. It turns you into Monday slaves, and I'll explain what I mean. Let's say you are a stereotypical master of a slave. You own that slave. You tell them what to do, when to do it, where to do it, and how to do it. The slave has no say in the matter. They must obey you at all times, or else they could suffer physical abuse by you. Now let's say someone comes along and criticizes you for being a slave owner. They explain that the slave did not agree to this abusive relationship, you are holding them against their will, and you are enforcing your power over them through violent means. Now, as the slave owner, what if you actually listen to these criticisms and you begin to slightly realize the error of your ways, so you say, okay, I will stop physically harming my slave, but I still own them. I will still dictate to them everything they do, but I will just keep them restrained at all times and I will stop physically abusing them. So the person who is criticizing the slave owner might say, that is marginally better, but you're still not getting it. The fundamental idea that you can hold someone against their will, not pay them, restrain them, and tell them what to do is fundamentally wrong. So the slave owner backpedals again and says, fine, I won't restrain them. I will just have them work for me throughout the week. But if they refuse to do my bidding, I will come and find them and force them back into my servitude. But that would be on them, right? That is their disobedience. That isn't me being a slave owner, right? After all, I let them go free. It's just that they still have to bend to my demands of them. Obviously, this person is still not getting it, so with one final plea to rationality, the person criticizing the slave owner says, no, you're still not understanding. That slave should be free to do whatever they want so long as they don't harm another person, and when you get to enforce edicts on their life or take autonomy away from them or make mandatory mandates on the way their life is run, then you are acting outside of what you have the right to do. So then, at this point, the slave owner makes one last concession. He says, what if I just make my slave a Monday slave? The slave must work for me on Mondays only. Every dollar they make on Monday, I will take by force. This will result in me taking just 20% of the money they make. They will still do fine in life, they'll still have opportunities and some freedom, but I get to still maintain some control over their life. And yeah, fine, it is involuntary, but I made enemies with my neighbor and I'm at war with them, and I have to fund my military effort somehow, so I'm just going to take money away from my slave to the tune of only what they earn on Monday. And then the person criticizing the slave owner says, that actually sounds exactly like an income tax. That sounds perfectly reasonable to me. And they both walk away happy. At what point did the slave in this story go from being a slave to not being a slave? I think it is a good question to ask. So anyway, for anyone wondering, I was partly inspired by Tale of a Slave by Robert Nozick. I've actually done a similar video on this in the past, but having just paid my income tax recently, I felt inspired to do this again with a slight little twist. All in all, obviously, I think saying the income tax is absolutely equal to the utter subjugation of another human being is obviously stretching it. We are not in the same dire circumstance that slaves throughout history have been in, but we are the victim of a more underhanded and ambiguous form of control. We are, as I said before, Monday slaves. There is at least a part of your work week in which, at the end of the day, you receive no payment for. You work and you are productive, and the fruits of your labor are taken from you through the threat of violence against your will. And that value has been extracted from you, and it goes to pay for wars, programs, bureaucracy, and red tape that you never asked for and you don't want. Thanks, and that's all.